The mayor of Canada's capital city has declared a state of emergency. The so-called Freedom Convoy is protesting in Ottawa the country's COVID vaccine mandate for cross-border truckers. Protesters have been distributing around the capital and other major cities with roadblocks and nonstop horn honking, all of their messaging. And as the demonstration reaches day 10, the city's police department now warns that anybody trying to bring gas or other assistance to the truckers to keep engines running could be arrested. And then there's this part of the story. GoFundMe is backtracking on its decision to redistribute money donated from the nearly $10 million Freedom Convoy fundraiser. The platform now says it will automatically refund donations. This comes as Texas Senator Ted Cruz and others are calling for a fraud investigation into GoFundMe.
Sent a letter to the Federal Trade Commission asking that the FTC open an investigation into GoFundMe into whether they've committed deceptive trade practices, because when people gave money, they gave money under the promise it would go to the Freedom Convoy, not to whatever left-wing political ideology GoFundMe and other Silicon Valley companies support. They are deceiving consumers, and it is wrong.
Jason Rantz, Seattle radio talk show host. And Jason, the first thing that came to mind was your coast, because I remember the GoFundMe sites for the chop zones, those police-free chop zones.
Yep.
And two people were shot and killed. So that they'll protect the fundraising for that, but not for the Canadian truckers?
Yeah, not only did they protect it, they tweeted it out on their official GoFundMe Twitter feed. So they were promoting it personally. And they're just revealing who they are, right? A lot of these online donation sites do that. They employ progressive millennial activists. They end up pushing back against any issue deemed conservative. If you're going to promote CHOP, where not only did two black teenagers get shot and killed, you had ongoing vandalism. You had the very occupied protest site getting taken over violently with folks with guns, and they're going to tell us, oh, well, in this case, it's an occupation, it's not necessarily legal, we're going to have to step aside. Just stop it. They have every right to say, look, we're a left-wing online donation site. If you align with our services and our progressive ideals, we'll go ahead and let you do what you want to do. But when they don't acknowledge that, when they pretty much lie and go after these conservative movements or anything that they perceive to be conservative, they're just betraying what they're about. It ends up ticking off a whole lot of people. And yeah, it kind of leans into fraudulent behavior in my view. If I donate to a very specific fund, if you're not going to give that money to them, you're giving it back to me immediately. And we shouldn't have to have any sort of online outrage on Twitter to call it out, or the threat of an investigation from Senator Cruz in order for them to reverse course. I think that is absolutely absurd.
Well, and if we had a DOJ with some backbone in it on any of these issues that were, not right, you would look at also getting GoFundMe to immediately give that money back, because you'd have the hand of the law coming after you. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
You actually said this would happen. I didn't think it was going to happen this fast, though. A stunning about-face from that embattled Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. This comes after a lot of criticism that he's gotten, so he's now going to walk back a couple of those controversial soft-on-crime policies, which downgraded felonies to misdemeanors. Question. Is this too little too late? And this is a drip, by the way. That's like 2 out of I don't know how many. An op-ed for the New York Post reads this way. DA Bragg can't wait until NYC is in mourning to get it right. His change in course comes after the recent ambush murders of NYPD officers Jason Rivera and Wilbert Mora. Also, crime continues to spiral out of control in New York. Overall crime up by nearly 40% compared to the previous year. Jason, your reaction to it?
This shows you the power of community engagement. When you speak up in a loud, unified voice, you end up having a lot more power than you realize. But it's also, I think, sad that the death of 2 cops had to be that ultimate catalyst that pushes this over the top to get him to move in this direction. But for the people who are outraged and, frankly, just devastated by the deaths of these 2 officers, Officer Rivera and Mora, I don't think their families would mind that turns you into an activist in their memory and honor, to find the sort of the guts to speak out against these light on crime positions and politicians who are creating an environment that makes it easier not just for cops to be killed, but for everyday citizens just going about their day to be injured, businesses to go under and having to deal with all these shoplifting. At some point, people need to speak up. And we do realize we have the power when we do, and this is a good example of that.
Amazing, because it was the wife of Jason Rivera who literally called out this DA. Yep. I thought you might say President Biden, because he was here to meet with the mayor last week. Yeah, this didn't come up. So it is the power of the people. All right, I want to get to a couple things that just signify where we are right now in crime from coast to coast, top to bottom. And a Los Angeles woman says she walked out to her car and there was a naked man in the trunk. You see the police officer coming. I mean, Jason, we are at a place now where, and he was a homeless man, we're told. He's being taken care of. He had some mental health issues. But can you imagine coming out and finding that in the back of your car in the trunk?
I'm glad I don't drive. I'm glad I've made the decision to go carless for a bit, because that would absolutely terrify me. And the problem is, I'm not even necessarily shocked that this happened, right? I mean, no, it doesn't happen every day, but it's not one of those kinds of stories that you sit back and say, wow, this rarely happens. These kinds of events with homeless people who are dealing with mental health issues. It never happens.
So sad.
Very clearly, these things are happening in greater numbers in a more general sense. And it's because, number one, we've got homeless people who are dealing with mental health that we're offering services, but we're not compelling or can't compel them to accept them. And so rather than put them into the system, put them into jail when they break the law, we're just allowing them to hang out and do their thing.
I just want to quickly say, under President Biden's presidency in 2021, the FBI says 73 police officers were killed in the line of duty. That is the most intentionally, I should say, since 1995, and up by 59%. From 2020. Police under attack. We've got that, but you see who responded there, right? You see who was in that picture. That was a cop. We are going to need them mightily if our politicians aren't going to solve some of the issues around helping the homeless, mental health. I mean, we have so much more of it right now after the lockdowns. Why can't we just get real? Jason Rantz, good to have you in focus. Thank you.
Thanks, Harris.